Welcome to the Punk Popcast. This week we're going to be talking about Silverstein's A Beautiful Place to Drown. Welcome to this week's episode of the Punk Popcast. I am one of your hosts. My name is Brad. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. And as always, we have Jason with us. How are you this evening, Jason?
I'm doing spectacular. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much. How are things back in Pennsylvania? Is it chilly there right now?
It is 47 and cloudy. I have a window open because I am dying right now.
All things are relative. It is currently 53 here in Phoenix and supposed to get cold again tonight. I've been sleeping in sweats and socks because it's been in the 30s at night the last couple nights. So we'll see how it goes tonight. I don't know. But anyway, let's get into this. This is one of my favorite recent discoveries. So Silverstein is one of my favorite bands. I honestly, if you asked me my top 5 favorite bands, I'd probably give you 8. Silverstein would definitely be one of them, though. This is a band that I've loved since the first time I heard Discovering the Waterfront. But one thing that I love about them is that they've evolved since then, right? That they still have like their identity, but they've changed with the times and they've evolved with their age. Like this album, it hits hard and it's awesome, but it's not exactly fist wrapped in blood, right? Like
Right.
it's like there, but it's not at the same time. I don't know. It's great. This is a recent discovery by me, despite the fact that it came out in 2020. I found it like last week, and I've been listening to it nonstop ever since. So
Which we I gotta be honest with the listeners. I thought this is an album Brad because he loves Silverstein. He's listened to since it's been out. So he told me he discovered it last week. I I sat here and laughed for like 2 minutes because I just discovered it this week that we're recording.
Right. Well, the thing that's funny about that though is that like still am super into Dead Reflections. It came out in 2017. Like I listened to that like the week it came out, and then just like nonstop. And when I would go to Silverstein and Apple Music, I would either go straight to Dead Reflections or scroll past and go to either Rescue Me or Discovering the Waterfront, because those are some of my favorite albums ever. Like I didn't even pay like last 2020 came around and I didn't even like consider there being a new album, right?
Right.
So that's why I never saw it, which is kind of funny and a little unfortunate because I actually like this one better than Dead Reflections, and I feel like this is a really good entry point for somebody who is not familiar with or has never listened to Silverstein before, and that's why we chose this album rather than any of the other previous to come into. Real quick, a funny thing about that though. So we haven't talked about this at all. We keep meaning to, but we have not. The When We Were Young festival, Jason,
Yes.
right? So what did you call it? Elder Millennial Festival. Is that what you called it?
I think that's what I called it, older millennial fest or something.
Yeah, yeah, Elder Millennial Fest. But it's funny because I was reading the comments and like there's a lot of like shady stuff with that, right? But one of the comments I thought was really funny because they're supposed to be there with somebody's like they're all, look, half these bands aren't even active. When was the last time you heard anything from Silverstein? And at the time, I was like, dude, they released an album like a few years ago in 2017. They released one in 2020, and they have one coming out later this year. So it's like, you're so far removed, like you don't deserve to go. anyway. All right, I'm going to go ahead and lead us off.
I was going to say real quick, if anyone's listening and has tickets and can hook Brad up, hook him up at Jojo Cornrow on Twitter. Hit him up in the DMs. Hook him up with some tickets because he deserves
go
to
if
go.
if you can hook me up with some tickets. I'll meet you there. I'm not going to pay that much to go to a show that I don't know entirely. If I'm not entirely sure if it's going to happen, based on things I've seen. But anyway, let's go ahead and lead off with. Let's get started with "Burn It Down." Okay, this is the second track on this album, which starts fantastically, by the way. Starts super strong. And then they go into Burn It Down. And man, like So the intro is, in all my dreams you're screaming burn it down, and then it goes into, I woke up in a dark place, I try to see straight but it's all a blur. um I don't know, it's so first off, like, one of the things I love about Silverstein is the drive of every song, just the push, the heavy guitars, the drums are outstanding, everything ties together perfectly. And I love Shane Told's voice, by the way. Like, that's one of my favorite things about Silverstein is the way he sings. Um, but that being said, their lyrics, if you've ever been depressed at all or felt defeated in any way, their lyrics speak loud and clear to you, I feel like. Right? You're laughing, but
I'm laughing because it's so true. Because I own When Broken is Easily Fixed, and there got to a point where I couldn't listen to it because it would make me depressed. So
I don't listen to that album for that reason. It's incredibly depressing.
it is so bleak and depressing that it's kind of stained Silverstein for me for all these years.
I could see that. I could see that. But just that intro to me though is that, like, is that there's somebody haunting his dreams, right?
Right.
And I've been there, and that spoke directly to me the first time I heard the song. I was like, that's a strong line. That's a good way to describe it. But anyway, what was your first impression of this song, Jason?
Well, my first impression of this song and just the album in general, um, is that if this album came out in 2006, I'd have been all over it. I would have bought it hook, line, and sinker. I'd have been on the Victory Records message board talking about how great it is, because I think that was their label at the time.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It was, because I have a sampler from that time with them on it.
Oh, nice. I'll have to check that out. I have that sampler. I don't think I've ever recognized that Silverstein was on it.
I think if it's the same one I have, it has Discovering the Waterfront on it.
Okay, all right, there you go. I think the one does that have some Atreyu on it as well?
Of course, it has Atreyu on it.
Oh, it's gonna have, but yeah. No, I had that. I'm pretty sure I have that same sampler. In fact, actually, my wife has that sampler, and
Did it
that's
come with
where
a
I got it.
DVD?
I don't know. It was on her iPod. I stripped her iPod when we got married. So, actually, while we were dating, I was like, "This chick's got some awesome music. Plug it in, oink, highlight and drag."
Okay.
But anyway, yeah. So no, this I feel like though, like, this is one of those songs that punches you in the face with the first, like, with the intro, and then it doesn't really look back from there. And that's, like I said, that's one of the things I love about Silverstein, and the fact that they can do that and maintain it the way that they do. It I listen to Silverstein a lot while I work for that reason, because it helps me, like, center and focus, right?
Okay.
Just because there's not too much change, like, top to bottom. But anyway, all right, so that's Burn It Down. Sorry, Jason, I'll quit rambling. Go ahead with your next one.
You're good. You love this band, so I'm
I
totally
do so
fine with
much.
you rambling. So you're not offending me by any means, because I get it. I get it. I'm a fan. I get it. I guess we'll go with Infinite, because that's the one I think I messaged you about first when listening to this album. And I
think so,
believe my
too, yeah.
exact quote to you was that I could see this song being a montage in an action film.
I could see that.
Like when the hero is down and he needs to pull himself back up. You know, Stallone's training. He's got to win the arm wrestling match to save his son in his big rig. Like, this is the song that would play in the modern version of Over the Top. 80s, it was Winner Takes All by Sammy Hagar. 2020s, it would be Infinite by Silverstein.
So I think it's funny that that's your interpretation of the song, because for me, like, not even close. Because I was listening to this and I was like, man, like, I get that absolutely 100%. The chorus is infinite when the darkness finds me. All this feels infinite and the pain is binding. All this feels, and goes infinite again. But I've been there, like 100%. There was a time when I was like, let's see, I was 20 years old. I literally had a migraine, Jason, that lasted an entire month, and I was like, this is the rest of my life. This is the way it's going to be, and eventually we figured it out, got it sorted out. But I had COVID a couple months ago, and the symptoms lingered for like a month after that. And I was like, I've got long haul symptoms. I've got long COVID. Like, this is just the rest of my life, because unfortunately that's where my mind goes when I'm sick. Is like, I just have to learn to deal with this now. And so I like that spoke to me on such a deep level, specifically when the darkness finds me, all this feels and the pain is blinding. And like, I've been there 100%. It does feel like it's never going to go away, and it's a miserable experience, 1000%. But
Well,
that's
I for one, as your friend, I'm glad you have the migraines taken care of, and
me
and
too.
we've been friends during your COVID, so I understand
Yeah,
to some
it's a
degree
pretty
what you've been
miserable
going through.
experience. Yeah, I mean, that's why I
Um,
wear glasses, is the migraines. But anyway.
but like for me, like listening to the song and my mind's running away a mile a minute, can't shake it off, a free fall, I'd give anything to make it stop. How can I be an optimist when all this feels infinite? I mean, I can relate to it. I've had my dark days in my youth, oddly in my 20 age area, 1920, which that
Mhm.
seems to be an age, I think, for people to kind of like be depressed about something.
Because you're
Um,
having to deal with real life for the first time ever. I'm,
ugh,
I'm sure that's what it is. It's got to be it.
real life. It's a little overrated sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, but going back to like my first thought on it being a montage song, from listening to Shane's podcast, Lead Singer Syndrome, I think it's called.
Okay.
I have no doubt if he listened to this, he would crack up hearing that, because like there's always pop culture talk on that podcast.
Oh, is
So
there? That's awesome.
yeah.
I'll have to check it out.
Well, I discovered it totally off topic. I discovered it because James Hart from 18 Visions was on it when they reunited. And they
Mm.
spent like a solid 15 minutes talking about Game of Thrones. I'm not a Game of Thrones fan, but it was
That's so
so
funny.
funny hearing these two lead singers from two known bands like fanboy over a TV show. Like it wasn't just like casual talk, it was like in-depth talk about Game of
Oh
Thrones.
yeah, that's so funny. Like breaking down who's going to get the throne and why.
Oh, and
Um,
like how James's dogs are named after characters. Like it's hilarious.
that's so funny.
And they're like Yorkies. Like they're not even like cool dogs. Sorry, James. I love 18 Visions and you're super cool to me on Facebook, but like
So
dude wishes
funny.
me happy birthday every year.
That's awesome.
And now I'm complaining that
That
his
his
dogs
dogs
are
aren't cool enough.
Yorkies.
Wow, Jason, that is petty. That is real petty,
I feel
Jason.
like such a jerk now.
but no, I think you're spot on though. I think this could be a montage in an action movie for a lot of reasons, and part of it is just the drive, the way that it plays. I think is a big reason for it.
Over the
I,
top.
yeah, it's excellent. Okay, I'm gonna go with one more before we take a break. I'm gonna go with this. This is kind of an interesting one. It's a little bit different than the rest of the album, and it's a different Silverstein feel, but it's called "Say Yes." And this is one thing that I like about Silverstein is that they'll hit you in the face, right? They're gonna punch you in the face with power and post-hardcore and screamo and heavy guitars and everything. And then what they're gonna do is they're gonna bring it in and be like, "But we also know you love pop music," and that's what "Say Yes" is. When I was first listening to this album, I like to do the read the album synopsis on Apple Music, and the thing that the specific word that they used to describe this song was that it was a bubblegum pop song. Have you ever heard that before?
I have heard the term.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'd put it to this song, but I've heard the term.
and that's the thing. That's the thing that's funny is that no, I wouldn't necessarily consider this song a bubblegum pop song, right? But compared to the rest of the album, relatively speaking, it might be.
This is a very accessible song, yes.
hmm It is. And this is another one of those entry points that I'm talking about that if you've never listened to Silverstein before, this is a really good entry point. Nice and easy, a little bit softer, very, very catchy, and really easy to sing along to.
what stood out for me with this song, because this was a standout song, I thought, lyrically. And it's because I'm a sports fan and you're a sports fan. I'm a half
Mhm.
court shot with the buzzer gone.
I love that line so much. I was like, that's fantastic.
I love that it popped out for you too.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's my favorite line in this song because uh as it's like half court shot with the buzzer gone. Like the way that I interpret that is that like I look cool and I'm a lot of fun, but totally useless to you. Like do not mean anything to you at all. Like
See, I took it the other way. Like I'm a long shot. Like I'm trying this, but it isn't gonna happen.
yeah.
Like
Well
my
just
chances of this happening are slim.
and I could see that with the half court shot thing, but specifically with the buzzer gone, like if it goes, it doesn't matter, right? It's like, oh man, it's exciting, but it doesn't count. Doesn't it's not any good to
Oh,
you.
I mean, if we
That's where
get
that comes from for
technical
me.
about it, is the ball in the air when the buzzer's gone though? Because if the ball's in the air, it's still in play.
You're right. You're right. Yeah. I don't know. So I don't know, maybe a risk. I don't know, but that's a good point because I just assumed that it was like you're just heaving it after the horn, and kind of like how sometimes guys will wait till after the clock expires to toss up a heave, because they don't want to hurt their shooting percentage. That's a real thing, by the way.
It
That
is. I just wasn't thinking of it like professionally. I was thinking like high school.
Yeah, yeah, that too. But no, like just after the horn, and then throw it up. That's the way I imagined it. But anyway, let's go ahead and take a quick break. When we get back, we have a couple more tracks to get into.
The None Other Sports Podcast is the home of sports talk for everyone. Every other week, you can catch David and Jason as they talk about all things sports, from current events to classic moments and everything in between. You can find the None Other Sports Podcast on Anchor.fm, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, and more. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review.
9+ Us presents the Baseball Together podcast with your hosts Blackjack Brad and Kansas City Little Big Briggy Blue Eyes. Weekly episodes for the entire baseball family where we talk all baseball all the time. Available on all your favorite podcast apps and on YouTube. Come join our baseball family where we do baseball together.
Welcome back to the Punk Popcast. Today we're talking about a beautiful place to drown by Silverstein. I've gone through a couple of my tracks. Jason's gone through one. But before we get into his, let's go ahead and talk about Jason. Let's go ahead and talk about our consensus track of the week. And I mean, we both like the opening track to albums a lot, right? I mean, I made a habit of going with it at the beginning, and that's a little bit of a pun that was not intended there. But we're going to talk about bad habits. I think this is a perfect way to start off this album. Honestly, like that's like the way that it leads in with just Shane Told and a little bit of bass guitar under his voice. Like they could not have picked a better intro to this album.
Yeah, this was a good intro song. Good way to start the album. It's red hot. I mean, just fantastic song. And this was the song that, like I said earlier, if this came out in 2006, I'd have been all over, because to me it sounds very indicative of the post-hardcore bands that came out at that time frame.
Mm-hmm.
It has that like almost a Atreyu-ish sound on this song.
It does, and you know what? I like Atreyu, but I like Silverstein a whole lot more. And I don't know if I feel like it's like one of those things where it's easier to digest,
Okay. Yeah.
easier to take it in and go with it. And this song is like sums up why I like Silverstein so much is you said it's red hot. That's perfect. That you get the strong lyrics, you get the strong guitar, everything comes together perfectly for an amazing chorus that is still easy to sing along with, despite everything else that's going on with it. Because sometimes with these post-hardcore bands, it's less melodic and more like, And I feel like Silverstein does it perfectly because Shane Told has an outstanding voice, and I love that they showcase it, and especially with this song.
I don't dislike his guttural screams. It's just his clean singing voice is so good
Mm-hmm.
that I feel like the guttural screams takes away from how good his clean singing voice is.
And I feel like it's a good accent. You know, like that's one of the things I really like about it is that it's a perfect accent to go with the music and to toss it and he never overdoes it, right?
No, he doesn't. He doesn't. You're
And
right.
that's one thing that I really like is that he never goes too far with it. There's sometimes where it's like on Dead Reflections, there's one song. It's so funny because I can't remember what the name of the song is off the top of my head, but the original version he screams like it's probably like 2-3 lines, you know. But then the acoustic version, I was like, oh, that's does not fit, but that's okay because it still works. You know, is that he's still able to, despite the lyrics, he's able to do it, and it still works really well with the song.
Like
And
I think
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think that this is one of those songs where he's able to do that too. Go ahead.
I think when it comes to him doing the clean and the guttural, I think I guess what we would have to say would be like the stereotypical Silverstein song for that would be Smashed Into Pieces,
Mm-hmm.
because that just, I mean, that it's such a juxtaposition that I think that's the stereotypical song for him doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gotten so much better over the years, but whenever I think of Silverstein, I think of that song. But now I will say, like you've said, they've grown so much since then. Listening to this album compared to that one, I mean, their musicianship is so tight now.
Oh, they're so good. Like they've gotten to, and this is one thing that I love is that like there's some bands where it's like you almost feel silly as a guy in your mid-30s listening to them, right? But I don't feel that way as Silverstein because they've grown with their age. They're not like Blink 182, they're still singing to high schoolers, which is fine because it's still catchy and it's still really good. You know, they'll bring one out every once in a while for our generation, but for the most part, like they're still singing about high school heartbreak. But Silverstein's not singing about that anymore. They're singing about real life stuff that we can all relate to as elder millennials, I guess, for lack of a better term. But anyway, go ahead.
One more thing, I think this chorus, I mean, I could see it in an arena, people pumping their fists to it. It's that good.
So on my other podcast on Baseball Together, every year we're going to be doing walk-up music assignments for MLB All-Stars. And this will probably make the cut this year for that reason.
Nice.
Because I totally agree with you. Either this song or another one off this album, because 100% I agree. All right, Jason, go ahead with your next track.
Let's mellow it out a bit. Let's go with All On Me.
Okay.
Because I'm that guy this season. That's my gimmick, and I'm sticking with it.
We're going to slow it down.
Oh, yeah. Okay, anyway, before I get all Barry White on everyone. That's my future yacht rock podcast, anyway. It's funny I say that because the sax on this is on fire.
It is so good.
This could be on a slow jam playlist, and it would fit right in.
Yeah. So when I first listened to this, when I first was listening to this album, I came across this song, and my wife was sitting there. So I have like a corner of our bedroom that's my office, and so I was sitting there listening to it, and my wife was sitting on the bed reading a book. I was like, oh my gosh, I disconnected my headphones. I was like, you got to listen to this. And I played it, and she's like, that's really good. And I know you love that smooth sax. I was like, you bet I do.
So for those listening, you've now learned that Brad likes sax on the beach.
So much. Yeah.
This song, as I stated to you in our messages, this is on fire. This is a fantastic song. And you know what? It's a welcome break on the album, I think.
Mm-hmm. It's in a good spot. It's in a really good spot, honestly, which is weird to say, but it's strategically placed.
It's really great. This is my favorite song on the album because it stands out because it is so different than the rest of the album. Fantastic. That's all I can say is fantastic. And that
Yeah.
sax is money.
That sax is so money. Because so that again, I was reading the album synopsis on Apple Music, and I saw something about how there was a sax solo. I was like, "Are you kidding me? Which track is that?" And I immediately skipped to All on Me, and I was like, "Yeah, this is good. This is really good." And it's like,
Go ahead.
The sax is not overpowering, right? It's there, and it fits in and flows perfectly, and it is smooth, and it is absolutely like, for those of you who don't know, obviously everybody says besides me and Jason's exact text message was All on Me, fire emoji. That's all it was. That's all it was.
It is as smooth as the sea, let me tell you. I mean, it is yachty. And with this genre, when you hear that there's sax or some kind of horn, you're thinking it's going to be kind of ska-ish. I mean, if we're honest, and we haven't gotten into ska yet.
Right.
But most horn sections, you're thinking ska, and it's not. This is...
It's what I was expecting.
This is smooth. It is so smooth.
Yeah. So a couple weeks ago, we talked about One Slow Dance with Rufio, right?
Yeah.
And so with my band that I was playing in, we basically ripped that song off. And I was trying to get my buddy. So my buddy plays an excellent sax. I tried to get him to bring it out for that song because this is something I wanted to go with. He's like, I don't want to do that. I'm not gonna do it. I was like, dude, it'll be so good. No, I don't want to do it. Like, we could have had this. And yet we didn't. So upsetting. We wouldn't have had this. We were not that good. All right. For my final selection, I'm gonna go with Madness. First off, any song that's called Madness, you have my attention. I don't know why. I think it's because that was a term that was used in my house growing up. It's madness. It's utter madness. And then everything switched with Big Bang Theory. It all switched to utter adness. Do you know that reference?
It's been a while since I watched Big Bang, so it's not registering. But I will say, when I hear Madness, I hate to say ska again, I think of the 80s ska band Madness, like One Step Beyond. And you would know Our House in the Middle of the Street.
Okay. Yeah, I don't like it.
That's Madness.
Yeah. And not my particular brand of vodka. But anyway, I don't know. Like, honestly, nothing like lyrically about the song sticks out to me. It's just a solid listen. It's like I said, I listen to this album a lot while I work, and this track, like, it's almost like there's like checkpoints, right? When you listen to an album. And this is one where I'm like, okay, I'm about halfway through. I need to start thinking about where I'm going next. And also I kind of use music as a timer to make sure I'm keeping pace with what I'm doing with work. And if I get here, and I'm a writer, for those of you who don't know, a digital copywriter, if I have not gotten anything on my Word document by the time I get to this song, I'm like, okay, I'm in trouble. Like, so this is one of those songs that helps me center and refocus and get back to what I'm supposed to be doing, because of where it is on the album, and also just the flow of it, the pace, everything about it. Just, it's awesome.
So I'm going to make a controversial statement here.
Ruh-roh.
This kind of gave me a Machine Gun Kelly vibe.
Oh, it did?
And I think it's because of Princess Nokia.
Okay, yeah. So this album, for those of you who don't know, has a bunch of feat, a bunch of FT, somebody else collabs, and honestly, I have not been able to pick them out. I don't really listen for like the other people on the track. But go on, Jason. Tell me about Princess Nokia.
All I know is that she's a fan of theirs and she's a rapper. And they dig her stuff, so they got together and did a song. But I think it's because of her influence on the song. It just kind of gives me like a Machine Gun Kelly vibe. And I know he's like toxic. We saw him open up for Fall Out Boy, and
I bet it was awesome.
Live, he was amazing live.
Dude,
And I
that's the
don't want to
thing.
admit that.
Dude, I like his music. I'm gonna be honest, but he's a crazy person. But yeah.
He is a spectacular Tommy Lee in The Dirt.
Yes, he is.
Like,
that's a great movie.
You got to read the book. You got to read the book.
I do, and I'm trying to read more this year. Maybe I'll put it on my list. Maybe I'll read that this year at some point. But no, he did a great job as Tommy Lee in The Dirt. But no, anyway, yeah, that's outstanding song, Madness. I think that is funny that it gave you Machine Gun Kelly vibes, though. I'll have to listen to that again. Maybe I'll listen to it tonight and see if I can pick that out because that's funny. It's really cool.
Sorry.
It's not going to ruin the song for me. I mean, I just said I like Machine Gun Kelly. I like his music.
He does have some good songs.
I actually really like rap a lot. I still listen to a ton of Eminem, like on the regular. So
another controversial statement. I'm not a big Eminem guy.
It took me a long time.
I was pretty high. I got into Machine Gun Kelly because he had the guts to go after Eminem in a song. And you know what? Rap Devil's really good. I like it. But outside of him, that song and like most Drake, all my rap is like 1997 and before.
Oh yeah, I get that. It's still good.
Lots of Run DMC on my playlist.
I was gonna say lots of Run DMC, probably some NWA.
Lots of LL. LL's my favorite. I will always.
Oh, that's
like
right. We've
LL.
talked about this. Yeah, we've talked about LL. Yeah. No, Eminem is my go-to with rap. Like straight up, I dig it. But all right, Jason. Last track here. What do you have for us?
I have September 14th. I thought this was a really cool song when I first listened to the album. Second listen, which was the day we're recording this, I looked more into the song on Genius, and it's about the Vietnam draft. And I'm assuming because they're Canadian, it's the Canadian draft. But I thought it was really cool. He's talking about something that happened historically in his country. And that's something that listeners in the US can understand about because there was a draft in the US too for Vietnam. Mm-hmm. So specifically, like, I think if you're listening to it and you don't know, their fate encapsulated in plastic pills would make you think this is like an addiction song. But if you read about the song, it was on TV. Government officials pulled plastic capsules with a date in it out and opened it up and read that date on the air. And if you were born on that date, you were drafted. So that's what he meant by fate encapsulated in plastic pills. This is lyrically, it's a really heavy song, just content wise.
It is. And I honestly didn't know what this song was about until you told me that before we came on the air. I tried searching it. I tried looking like, what's the significance of September 14th, blah, blah, blah. And I think honestly, because I saw, like, I looked up specifically like this date in history, right? And I may have skipped over that because I was like, that's probably not going to be anyway. The chorus though is why I was like, hey, this song has some kind of significance to something in history. Kind of like when you listen to Believe by Yellowcard, you're like, that is 100,000% about 9/11, right? I was like, there's something this song is about that's heavy historically. And it's specifically with the chorus for me is like, it's take if you want to believe it is. We'll save face while we're trying to make it right. This can't be happening. You've stolen tomorrow. Like, I can't imagine that feeling. That like you've basically taken someone's future at the drop of a hat. You're just like, well, all right, your turn. Like, I feel like, Jason, you and I are really fortunate to live when we do, that we didn't have to deal with that. And I remember when I was 16, 17, 18, and even 19 years old, people are like, they're going to bring back the draft. You better be ready. That was something they told us a lot. And, we had to sign up with selective services and everything like that. And I had somebody tell me at one point, like, you better get married so you don't have to get drafted. It's like, oh, dang.
I wrote an article about it in my school newspaper.
You did? Oh,
yep.
Dang.
So I don't know if you drew this similarity, but to me, maybe not musically, but just the depth of the lyrics, it reminded me of One by Metallica, which is also like an anti-war song.
Okay. I hadn't made that connection. Like I said, my connection was more with Believe by Yellow Card, as it was like a tribute to the people who had to deal with that. That was kind of what it
Okay.
felt like to me. But yeah, no, anti-war, absolutely. 100%. I agree with you. And a lot of pop punk bands will do that, especially with our generation from high school into college age. When the bands we were listening to then, they, with everything going on in Afghanistan, Iraq, all of it, there was a lot of anti-war sentiment in the music, which is funny because, not like funny haha, but like funny, because like our parents had a lot of that. And I remember listening to some of that classic rock and being like, man, these people are like really heavy, like really hard into this. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. I get why that's what they were singing about. So, but anyway, Jason, let's wrap it up with our pop punk rating. Now, the one thing with this is like it is on the heavier side. It is like we talked about, post-hardcore. I know what I'm going to rate this, but that's because I'm incredibly biased with anything Silverstein. So what would you rate this?
I don't think I'll make it essential. I'll give it an 80. And that's just because you like them.
An 80. So that means that averages out to a 90, because I love it so much. I have to give it 100. And like I said, and maybe maybe that there is a lot of bias there, just because, like I said, they're one of my favorite bands, and maybe they shouldn't be 100 because that's really high for a band that's not like pigeonholed into the pop part of pop punk, right?
Right.
They do have some popular stuff, like I said, like Say Yes is a more popular song. They had 4 singles off this album, though.
Wow.
So, the fourth one was, I was actually just looking at that on Genius. The fourth one was, I think it was September 14th.
Oh, no way.
No, it was Madness. Madness was the fourth single off this album.
I mean, it was a really good album. I think because I would consider this more of a post-hardcore screamo album than I would a pop punk album.
Right, I would too.
I mean, there's clearly pop punk influences in this album. You can hear them, like Say Yes. I would even give a little bit of that to Bad Habits.
Mm-hmm.
But I think overall, it's a heavier album than a pop punk album.
It is, exactly, and that's honestly, like, for me. So I started out with, and it's the thing. It's funny is that's like the evolution of my taste, right? It was like everything I started out with was more Say Yes, but then like my personal preferences now are more like Bad Habits and Infinite.
Okay,
right? Does that make sense? It's
kind of along
that spectrum. So, but anyway, let us know what you think about A Beautiful Place to Drown by Silverstein. Are you more with me on this? The fact that it's like one of the greatest things you've heard, and I use greatest loosely, or with Jason where it's good, or do you not like Silverstein at all? Let us know. Reach out on Twitter at Punk Popcast. You can get us there, or you can also get me at Jojo Cornrows. They're on the screen for you if you're watching on YouTube. And Jason right here, you can reach him as well
at XJasonDagX.
Right there. Very good. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode, and we will get with you